You depressed me so much because you hate ice cream. You didn't like this baby duck. Well, welcome to the Tales from the Ditch. I'm hoping that you and I you have 2 sons, I have 1 son, and who knows how many more end up. I'm hoping that we can do a better job of raising them to be, better informed and maybe better prepared for life. But most of all, I'm hoping that we can raise them to be a little more joyful and less frustrated and angry all the time. Both of us were so frustrated and angry.
I've said this to Maverick. Hey, do you think... Yeah. I've said this to Maverick so many times, man. I've said, you have nothing to prove to me.
Mm-hmm.
I told him, I said, I want you to have integrity and be holy.
Right.
I said, I want you to know God. I want you to love your neighbor. I want you to love God. I want, if you disagree with me, you to talk to me. If you're angry at me, I want you to talk to me. I said, even if you get in trouble, I want you to come home. I want him to have a respect, for authority and listen, but I don't want him to be mindless, and I don't want him to be terrified of me. And there's a difference between him respecting me being just terrified of me, or saying, he's not the guy I want to come to. I legitimately, if he does something stupid, I'll be frustrated. He'll be in trouble, but I'll love him. And I don't know. If I could teach him one thing, be like, dude, you have nothing to prove.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, are you pursuing what's eternal? Are you pursuing what's infinite? Like, have you thought through the world and purpose and ideas? Oh gosh.
I hope that my son tries to run a train, but I hope he doesn't do it because he has anything to prove to anybody. I hope he does it because it brings him joy or gives him help, is part of achieving his goals, not part of proving himself to anybody.
Maybe he just likes trains.
Or maybe my son does love trains, so I wouldn't be surprised. I hope to God that he doesn't get hurt trying to run a train.
Yeah.
And that's like a terrible fear I have. Thanks for that. But I just don't want him to think that he has, like you said, anything to prove, or that he needs to be validated by people. Even as his dad, he doesn't need my validation. He is his own person. We talked about this last podcast. He's created in the image of God. That is all that he needs to do. I actually remember, I think your first job or second job was at TCBY.
Baskin-Robbins. Baskin-Robbins, yes.
Yes, Baskin-Robbins. And I remember you were so miserable. And it wasn't because the job was that bad. You got to eat ice cream and do all kinds of stuff.
I didn't even work that hard.
But you realized, you said, this is it. Everything before this point was my time of freedom, and now I'm here to the end of it. And I'm working for the rest of my life. And I think part of that is because your dad worked so consistently at a job where he was gone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He always had a weird shift where you guys didn't see each other very much.
Yeah.
He worked...
he had that graveyard shift, which was terrible.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I think you just saw yourself doing that same thing and couldn't handle it. And you were depressed. And I was depressed too. Our first jobs. I wouldn't accept that this was what I was going to be doing all my life. I would actively try to do things to make that not be like get rich quick type of, funny, irresponsible stuff. One thing I noticed...
Diving for golf balls.
It was crazy because you worked at Baskin-Robbins and now you don't like ice cream.
That place made me hate ice cream. By the way, sponsored by Baskin-Robbins. They have new Herbert Sherbert.
One time, do you remember we caught a duck? Like a baby duck?
Yes.
And we were like, hey, this baby duck got abandoned by its mom, and we're taking care of it now. We're its mom now. Yep. And we walked in, and we came in to Baskin-Robbins, and we were like, dude, we bought this duck. And you were just like, what's the point? You were like, for several reasons, you were like, this duck is doomed because you're going to be bad replacement mothers. But also you were like, I was like, you're getting off in a half an hour. And you're like, it doesn't matter. It's like I'm never getting off at all because this is my life forever. And I was like, man, you depressed me so much because you hate ice cream. You didn't like this baby duck, and you were no longer willing. I mean, there was a period, probably almost a year, where you weren't willing to do anything. You wouldn't come out and have fun, or you wouldn't even be that into like the music we were trying to make or anything like that. No. You were just legitimately depressed because you entered the workforce.
The thing is too, this is what always, I don't know if you ever heard this. As a kid, I always got told, well, these are good days. Enjoy them now. I was like, these are the good days? I was like, then what am I looking forward to if it just gets worse? And this is the answer my dad gave, because I was like, but I think being a kid sucks. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. Like, I don't understand, girls or communication or social situations. And I asked my dad point blank. I was like, so does it get worse? I mean, do you just work at a job the rest of your life? I mean, do you secretly love your job and I just don't know? And he's like, no, it really is it. You're going to work the rest of your life and then you'll die. And I'm sitting there going, why would I be excited about that? Why would I go, okay? And I refused. I was like, no, I got to find a way out. I mean, like, for instance, something fun to do, like, say you find a snake when you're swimming and you take it to your friend's place of employment at a casino, a casino that's booming.
I think that's worth talking about, maybe. Should we talk about it on this podcast?
Yeah, just don't say the name. Just don't say a name.
All right.
And I'm not guilty. I didn't get the snake. I ain't no rat.
This was like our salad day summer, I think.
Yeah.
Seth was past Baskin-Robbins. I think he had left Baskin-Robbins at this point. I had left. And he was on to making money some other way that we don't need to talk about, but it wasn't at Baskin-Robbins.
Yeah.
I had a job, and also my friend had a job at the same place. His name was Josh, and we worked at this... oh,
wait, that's too obvious. Let's call him Jay Green.
Oh, right.
Now we know.
Yeah, Jay Green. We worked at this casino... / truck stop. We'll just call it Bang City.
Bang City or Moomtown.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this place we worked at, and we worked early. We started at 4 a.m. We would get off at noon or something like that. And yeah, and it was rough, like as a 15, 16-year-old getting up at 4. But I remember every day after work, we went to this special high school where school didn't start till about noon. And even then, we didn't really roll in till about 1 or 2 or something like that. So we would get off work and we would go straight to the river that was only like a couple less than a mile maybe from where we worked. And we would just swim in the river all day until we had to go to school. And it was great. It was kind of like, I felt like I had kind of figured out. I still didn't like being a dishwasher at a truck stop. Mm-hmm. There's some disgusting things you see as a dishwasher at a truck stop, but it was like, you get there and you drink all the soda you want, and then you go over to your friend's. He works at a different restaurant in the same casino, and he makes you a milkshake, and then you guys go swim and jump off things into a river and do all kinds of dangerous stuff at this really, really dangerous place at the river that we probably shouldn't have been in. It was like really scary. Remember the original It movie and they go into that sewery area?
Yeah.
It was like that. Or remember that movie, The War with Elijah Wood, and the kid gets caught in the drain?
Swimming in water where there's chemicals contaminated.
It was such
when
a
you're
bad
poor,
idea.
It just draws you to it.
It was just such a bad idea. So anyways, Josh and I and Seth and maybe a few other people are swimming there, and we find a snake. Big snake. I mean, it was like 6 feet long. It was a big bull snake.
Yeah, I think it was. Is that it was blackish? Is
black
that
and red.
Snake? Yeah, black and red.
And
red, black. Don't talk back.
Rojo y Negro.
Rojo y Negro.
Joe and Mac in Crucial Attack. And so the snake was red and black, or maybe orange and black, and it was eating baby birds. So in this area of the river, it's this really deep gorge, and the cliff was covered with these, I think, magpie nests.
Something. It was bird nests. I know it was
Yeah.
a bird.
Like 1,000 bird nests.
Does magpie to anyone else sound like a jerk? I don't know why when I think magpie, I think jerk. Like they're just jerk birds.
More like a nagpie.
I
I think they are jerk birds. I think they're really like invasive and aggressive.
remember something about them being jerks. I couldn't remember.
Let
I know
me
they're
finish the story
D-bags.
to
Yeah.
maybe explain this.
All right.
So the snake was eating baby birds, which I didn't think was cool. You can't eat babies. And so I was like, let's catch a snake and, do something fun. And I remember, and other people were like, yeah, that's a cool idea. And I remember you were mad because you were like, no, let those baby birds die. And I wasn't sure why you were mad. And then you picked up rocks and started throwing them at the birds
Yeah.
and trying to break the nests with baby
Mhm.
birds in them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember wondering why you hated baby birds so much.
I'm
And then I
wondering
remember
why
you
you hung
looked at
out
me.
with me.
You looked at me with those dead eyes, that 1,000-yard stare, and you were just like, this is how nature works. And then we got the snake. Then we caught the snake, and I think we put it in somebody's shirt. And then we
Yeah.
took it to Vince's house, and we were like, hey, we caught this snake. He was like, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah.
And
He
then,
made a good call. He really
Yeah,
did.
he
He made
was
a good
smart.
call.
And then we went to this place that we work, Boom Village.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what we're calling it. And
Whom City.
Whom Town.
Whom Town.
And we had that snake with us. And both of us worked there. Josh and I both worked. I mean, Jay Green and I
Green.
both worked there.
Let's keep this on the down low. Play
And we
it cool,
walked in
Sean.
with the snake, and I don't even know what we thought we were going to do. We were just like, this will be funny somehow. And we go in the middle of the casino floor, and there's all these slot machines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And we just let it go. And we were like waiting for people to be like, oh my God, a snake. But you can't see very well in a casino.
Well, it was in
And
an
it just
elevator.
slithered off. Oh, that's right. We let it go in the elevator.
And I walked away, and the custodian walked onto the elevator. And, he goes,
And the door's
"Ah!"
closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Am I being too loud?
He
Am
goes,
I
"Aye,
popping
aye, aye."
it? What am I
think
doing?
It's either you or me. Maybe you are.
Maybe.
You could do this. Wow. I'm just kidding.
What?
That was a
Like,
little Crocodile Dundee joke.
Keep this distance?
Yeah,
or
try that.
instead of right here?
That works too. It's
But
whatever you feel like. If
we-
you're going to yell, you can yell from back here.
because I don't know. See, that's what's
Oh,
happening. It's
that's
me.
you.
See? So for those who've been following around saying where are they going to fix that? Never. I don't owe you crap. I work at transportation, paying my bills, and I don't care.
You should see our setup.
Sponsored.
You'd be pretty impressed. We got like
Yeah.
a lot of PVC in this. We got dollar store selfie sticks
We
too.
left it in the elevator. I walked out calmly. Josh ran. You walked out calmly, I think. We all went different directions. And this lovely, what I can only imagine, I think he was a Salvadorian custodian, walks in
Yeah.
thinking, I want to take care of my kids. I want to do the right thing. And there's a snake in the elevator,
And then
not
the
on a
door's
plane,
closed.
in the elevator.
And the door's closed. And trap him in there with the
Yeah.
big snake.
You could hear him yell. I still remember his screams.
It was like, ay, ay, ay.
It was something. He legitimately, all right, hey, I mean this. We're not stereotyping. He legitimately said something like that, like flipping out. And you know what? I don't blame him. I think even if you're Russian or German, you'd say, ay, 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 at a time like that. It's a snake.
Yeah, this is not a racist joke. He literally said, I think he said, ay, ay, ay.
He said because he legitimately was scared. And
he had to wait. You know how long elevators take to go to the
Yeah.
next floor? He had to wait the whole time. And so we booked it. And I remember security stopped us. Somehow they were on it.
yeah.
The Moomtown security, they were really, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, we should maybe, it doesn't matter. So we had to go into this back security room. Remember?
You
got pulled
guys
in-
did.
We all got
I got
separated. No,
I
we
didn't
all
have
got
to go
separated.
in. I didn't have to go back
Oh,
room.
really?
Because I lied and said I didn't know you guys. So
Oh,
I left.
man.
Because
That
they
was
went, this is how it went down. So they grab us, and when some guys push me by arm, I go, I got a question. I was like, I don't know these guys. I'm trying to find my parents. Why do I have to go back? And he's like, what? I was like, I don't know what stuff they're doing, sir. I was like, I just need to go. I was like, I don't even work here. And he's like, oh, well, okay. What? He goes, just look. He goes, just leave. And I was like, yeah, I'll go right out. I'll call my parents later. He's like, yeah. So I left. I didn't get pulled in the back room.
That's
Josh
amazing.
did. You did.
Yeah, we got pulled in. I thought you got pulled in too, and then they separated us, and I guess they let you go at that point?
I was gone.
Oh my gosh.
I was gone. That was and by the way, folks, that is the only time you'll hear from our later stories that Seth got out of an interrogation room. The other times, I was not so lucky. That's the only time I made out of an interrogation room.
That is true. So Josh and I were in there, and I could hear him, and he could hear me, because we were in rooms right next to each other. They weren't like interrogation rooms. They were just like closets.
Yeah.
And I remember the security guard says, why'd you bring the snake in? And I said, what snake? And he said, you guys brought a live animal into this. He goes, this is dangerous for so many reasons. Somebody could have been seriously hurt or had a heart attack. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I knew that Josh wouldn't rat. And so I heard him go in the other room and talk to Josh. And in the room Josh was in, Josh told me about this later. In the room Josh was in, they had their setup for their closed circuit camera system.
No.
And he rewound it, and he says, I want you to tell me, son, why, when you went into this elevator, did you run out screaming? And Josh was like, because there was a snake in there.
Yeah.
He was like, of course. And they were like, well, I guess there's nothing we could say to that.
Story checks out.
Yeah. So that was that. And then we went to work there the next day.
Yeah. You didn't get fired.
No. I just told him I didn't work there.
Yeah. All right. So here's the thing that's amazing about this. And I'll let you on a guy's secret. All right. I'm a terrible liar. Sean's caught me. I don't know how to lie, so I just ignore what they're saying. It's kind of like a sociopath. I just go, that's not me. They could point at a screen showing me. I go, no, didn't happen. That's not me. But, so that's what makes this amazing that I made out. But sometimes I told the truth because I genuinely was innocent. And those worked out worse. So when I lied terribly, I got away with it. When I told the truth and it was on my side, I failed. Case in point. I went to a school that rhymes with TMCC. So I was out in the parking lot, about to go to class, minding my own business, hitting golf balls into a parking lot. Someone comes up and is like, you need to come into the principal's office. Oh, wait, no. We went to class. They pulled me out of class, said, let's, go to principal's office. Now, they tell me, we're told you're selling crack. Now, at this time, I was a youth leader at a charismatic church. And spoiler, I did not sell crack. That was not something I did.
True. I can verify. I
wasn't a crack seller. They tell me that someone reported me. I said, well, what happened? Well, earlier that day, someone was talking with me and said something stupid. I said, dude, you're on crack. That was all I said. The witness reported me saying that, even like word for word, saying, yeah, that was a conversation. They go, okay, so are you on crack? And I'm looking at them like, you have to be joking. You can't be, you're joking. They search my backpack, and the tables turned. I said, well, just drug test me now then. And they're like, no, we don't need to do that. I go, no, you're accusing me. Drug test me. And I remember my parents came. They called them. They had to take me home. I remember my mom's like, all right, I think we learned a lesson. That's some things you shouldn't say. And I'm like, aren't you a Republican who's always talking about free speech? And she's like, well, but certain circumstances. I go, no, I learned that people can't take a joke. I go, you always talk about people being too politically correct. They couldn't take a joke. I got in trouble for it. And now you're telling me I should not make jokes about stuff because someone else might take it wrong. And I called her a liberal or something because back then I was super far right. And conversation did not go how I planned. And next day I went to school, and the principal watched me because she thought I sold crack. And I was telling the truth. I did not... A lot of you guys doubt me on this. I was not selling crack at that time.
Yeah, I do remember sometimes, even when you were telling the truth, it seemed like you were lying poorly.
Seemed like a lie.
and it was hard to believe you whether you were telling the truth or not. A funny thing, actually, this probably explains why we became such angry. Well, I mean, we were angry people before then, but yeah, we were just like angry nihilists. And I believe, like, I mean, I'm hopefully reforming out of that and becoming less of an angry nihilist. And I don't want to be that way anymore. It's so exhausting. But, I mean, do you remember just, like, being to that point where you're like, nothing matters, everything sucks, everybody's terrible, everything's a joke, and I just kind of, like, give up?
Yeah, I've been in this, I don't know. I was in this weird phase for like 30 years where I just felt that all. No, because, all right, here's the thing. And I know people are like, man, quit bringing up Jesus. Shut up, random person saying that. I just, at that time, I didn't believe what I do now. And I just didn't see the point because I felt like without God or some crazy purpose, you could create meaning or define something as meaning, but it was so subjective. And I want something that was absolutely meaningful, true, and deep. And I just looked and went, this world sucks. Like, I'm like, none of my relationships turn out right. The people who I think are holy are some of the worst sometimes. And I also romanticize stuff. All right, I'm just going to throw them under a bus. Boy Meets World ruined my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basis of it.
False expectations.
Dude, it made me think, I was like, I'm going to be walking down the street. Some girl's going to be up in a tree. We'll fall in love for 50 years. What a load of crap. I remember when I was eating a sandwich at Parr Boulevard when I got arrested. I was like, where's my Topanga? Huh? Where's, I'm eating a sandwich made by prisoners sitting next to some Southside Locos guy who wanted to know if I was a Nazi. When I said no, he was nice to me after that. But, like, he had SSL tattooed down the back of his head. And this is, all right, side note, the coldest thing I've ever heard. I said, so what are you in for? And he goes, depends. I was like, what? He goes, if he wakes up. And I was like, what the heck? Why am I here? I was like, I am not hard enough for this. But, yeah, he was nice. His name was, Adrian. It was Adrian. It had SSL tattooed down the back of his head.
SSL Adrian, if you're out there, email us. We want to buy you a beer. Dude,
hey, Southside Loco, look, if you didn't get first degree, I'll take you for food. I'm not going to assume, what type. I'm more liberal these days, but I'll take you for food. And he was cool. He was nice. The guards seemed like they wanted to beat me up, but yeah, Adrian, I really do hope he woke up, man. I say that legitimately, like, because then he thought his sentence if the guy woke up would only be like 5 years, so he'd be out by now. But yeah, big ups to my boy Adrian. SSL, Southside, I won't say it, rhymes with Mocos. But
Southside Mochas.
I think all my friends are out of jail or prison. Yeah, I think they're all free right now, so that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a win, gang, right? All listeners of Tales from the Ditch, that's a win for the team. If not, shut up. So what does everyone think about abortion?
I have one question for you, actually. Yeah. This is relevant.
Gosh, what is it?
Okay. So, C.S. Lewis.
It says, this duck has a blank. Can you see it?
A tumor.
Don't say it in a mic. That's why I wrote it. He did not say tumor.
Tumor.
All right, C.S. Lewis, because actually I was going to ask you a question about that. Go ahead.
Okay, so C.S. Lewis is one of my favorite theologians. Yep. That's disputed. Some people won't even consider him a theologian, but I think he's great.
They're wrong.
And he has many religious views that I disagree with.
Yeah.
And he holds to many positions that I disagree with, but I still think he's fantastic. He's a fantastic author. He's an example of one of the content creators who truly inspires the worship of God and captivates me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in the Narnicles books.
Mm-hmm. Not like Bonson, yeah.
Narnicles, by the way, Jimmy Caceres is the one who coined that term, but Narnicles refers to the Chronicles of Narnia. There's 7 books, right?
I want to say it is. I know Last Battle's the end, and it's different between what was released and what's chronological. Never mind.
Right.
Yeah, it's like 7. And then he has the sci-fi trilogy. Yeah.
There's a very, very important and very specific thing that he talks about in every book, and that's the importance of
butts
being
That's for you, Maverick. You didn't believe I'd do it. Sorry.
Be proud of your
That
dad.
really is for Maverick. All right, go ahead. Maverick's my son.
You promised him you'd say butts.
He
That's all we have. Some people are like, I'll hit a home run for you in the Major League Baseball game today. All we can do is say, I'll say butts on the podcast today.
Because I told him, he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go record a podcast. He goes, say butt. And I was like, okay. And I remembered, I was like, this is for my son. All right, continue.
For sons everywhere. So C.S. Lewis has this recurring theme that having the heart of a child or the mind of a child is important. In the beginning, I mean, it's all over. It talks about it. It talks about how being an adult, you have this type of silliness that removes all joy from you. He talks about, in the end, in the last battle, he talks about Susan. They say Susan, who's one of the original girls that goes to Narnia and the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. He says she's no longer a friend of Narnia because she's consumed by adult things like lipstick and pantyhose or something like that.
They seem to paint her as she's shallow now, as chasing after material things and doesn't want like deep or eternal things.
Right.
Yeah.
They talk about other people who can't come anymore because they're too old.
Yeah.
And he just Aslan himself talks about the importance of thinking like a child and not an adult. And anyways, so I think it's just such a great, and through all the books, it's great imagery about the importance of being like a child. And even Jesus himself, in that one event, the kids are, going crazy and crawling all over him and being, if you've ever been to a Red Robin.
Yeah.
It's like that's how
Red
kids
Robin.
are at Red Robin.
Peter's like, we're at Red Robin, leave Jesus alone.
Exactly, yeah. Peter's like, hey, calm down, kids. Jesus is here. And Jesus says, hey, let the little kids come to me. And then he says, at a different point, he says, unless you have the heart of a child. Am I saying that right? I should probably get a Bible out. But he says, unless you have the heart
like
of a child.
a childlike faith or faith of a child. It was I thought it was something like that. Unless you have coupons for Kids R Us, you will not. Yeah, let's look it up because I'm
going to search for it right now. But anyways, C.S. Lewis, my point is he didn't just like come up with this thing in isolation.
Yeah.
He borrows this concept from Scripture. And I would think that... sorry, I'm looking it up right now. I would think that if... it's so important that this theme is literally in every C.S. Lewis book that it's something to pay attention to. Let's see.
I wonder if we ever replace C.S. Lewis, because when he died, I don't know that anyone else has come along who's had his role. I don't know. I know people say this all the time. They go, oh, he's the modern C.S. Lewis, like modern day C.S. Lewis. I don't see that. I don't know if we ever got a replacement for him. When him and Tolkien passed, I can't think of someone who nowadays is a theologian, a fictional writer, a sci-fi writer, a guest speaker, multiple master's degree. I don't know if we ever got another C.S. Lewis. They'll say it. They'll go, well, Tim Keller's like him. I'm like, I like Keller. He's not C.S. Lewis.
Right.
He has not written a sci-fi trilogy that made me think of creation theology.
Right, totally.
I just feel like we really did lose. When we lost Chesterton, Tolkien, Lewis.
Chesterton wrote that Man from
The Man Who Was Thursday or whatever.
Yeah. Is that right?
He wrote that. We lost Schaefer. We lost, and Schaefer's not even a guy I always agreed with, but he was, prominent. Russell Moore almost reminds me of Schaefer, except I like him more. But I don't know if we can ever look at someone now and go, yeah, he's like Lewis. And I'll also say this in defense of Lewis, because he's my best friend. Some of the things people don't like about him, I think they're wrong, and he doesn't actually believe. Because they haven't read all his books. I've read a lot of his books and gone, no, he doesn't actually think that. And then some of the stuff people disagree with, yeah, he's off. Stuff where I go, yeah, I think he did really believe that, but I just don't agree.
That's absolutely true. In the last battle, remember?
Yeah.
There's the person who represents like an Arab person or a Muslim person.
I think that was the metaphor.
And he says at some point, he goes, oh, well, Aslan says, he goes, well, you believed in an almighty God, and you called him Tash, I think was the evil Muslim, what people equate to the Allah. He goes, you believed in Tash, but you were truly believing in me because throughout your life you lived with morality or something like that. And a lot of people say, oh, so C.S. Lewis is a universalist now. No. And that's absolutely not true. And
I think he was inclusivist. I don't think he was universalist.
Yeah, he was an inclusivist. And I think the point is lost on a lot of people. I think the relevant point that he was trying to make was that people have this desire to search for a true God in them from birth. No matter where they're born and no matter what culture they're raised in, they have this the true law written on their heart, and they're seeking him.
Thank you.
Anyways, so here's the
if he was a universalist, he wouldn't have had all the animals at Aslan's judgment go into his shadows forever.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Some of them that chose against Aslan. Yeah.
Some things, you're right. C.S. Lewis believed, and I disagree with him too. And that's fine. Some things, you think he believed them, but you haven't read enough of his books. I've read about 32 of his books. And then some of the things that he did say, you're making them salvation issues, and I just don't agree with it. Because we've drawn lines of saying, this is the worst thing in the world. And I'm not saying I agree with him. They're still not right. But I feel like we put them on a pedestal of how bad they are, amplified him versus, okay, this is just kind of bad theology versus, no, this is blatantly heretical and he's lost his salvation. Because, they're all right, here's the thing that makes me know he's not universalist. When I read his books on hell, and he calls it a necessity and all the things of C.S. Lewis, you have to take in context and read all his books. And don't say Great Divorce. If you're saying that, I'll choke you. That's a fictional book. He even in an interview said, don't take it as theology. And he went back and forth. And there's a difference between being sympathetic to something and believing it. And I'm just going to say this. He writes better books than you. I'm sure.
Word.
All right, let's make up a fake name. Say someone named Meg Monson. Maybe your theology is better. Your books aren't that interesting. I want an inspiring fictional story. We still read about adventure. So it's I don't know.
Absolutely. An outline of good doctrine. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. I just want to preface this. I could be wrong.
Sponsored by eHarmony.
But an outline, Gavin said, our friend Gavin said that we will get sued if we keep saying real company names. But we can just say you heard it wrong.
Z-Harmony.
You may have heard eHarmony, but Seth pronounces his Z's like he's... Okay.
Sponsored by duckwithatophat.net.
When somebody outlines good doctrine, that's good, and I can use that as reference. But that does not drive me to worship the way some of C.S. Lewis's imagery does. And I think that's an important thing to understand. And that's me. There's maybe some people out there, I have a hard time believing, but they'll tell me I'm wrong, that through reading a reference book about good doctrine, or through reading systematic theology, they're like, oh, I want to worship God so much right now because I just learned this thing like I'm in school. And that's fine. I'm just saying for me, C.S. Lewis really drives me to worship. Anyways, the point is, here is the verse that I think C.S. Lewis pulls his imagery
you found
from.
it. Okay, good.
It's Matthew 18.
And David stopped to clean and feed his asses.
That's the one.
That's in the Bible. Don't get mad at me, folks. Take it out with Jesus.
This is the Elect Standard Version. Matthew 18:5. It says, whoever receives one such child in my name receives me, but whoever causes one of these little ones to believe in sin, it would be far greater to have a millstone tied around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. And he goes on to say in verse 10, see that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven.
Take that, John MacArthur.
And
he wouldn't even disagree with that.
We got way off topic, but here's what I wanted to tell you, and I think you're really a lot better at this than me. I have made a very strong effort to play with my son and to love my son and to understand the things that my son likes and appreciate them and not belittle or minimize them. I know when I was a kid, the things that I liked seemed childish to like my dad or adults, and I think it damaged me a little bit. And I think looking at the way that C.S. Lewis puts this, or even the way that Jesus puts it, we should not despise the ways that kids relate and think and imagine and love. And I don't want to do that to my son.
No.
I definitely don't want to do that the way that was done to me. So here's the thing, though. You're better at this than me. You have told me.
Get it?
I do get it.
I'm
Seth's drawing again. He drew, so it looks like a robot, but the bottom half of it is round, and the title is Robot. So this is my point. Seth is clearly better at a childlike mind than I am. So here's the thing. And this is, you take Maverick on dragon hunts. I've seen on Instagram, like you're taking Maverick up to the mountains to find dragons.
Yeah.
And I do the same, I do some of the same stuff with my son, and we go do cool stuff, and we're always looking for dragons, and we're always like fixing the car and things that he likes doing. But I found myself in a position where I feel like I would be called not a friend of Narnia, where I get home and Danger's like, I want to fight. And he literally puts his hands up and just starts slugging away at me. And I'm supposed to not a man fight, but child fight to the point where I don't hurt him. But he gave me a bloody nose last night.
Jeez.
He's dropped serious stunners on me and all kinds of crazy stuff. But still, I'm trying to have fun with them. But sometimes I don't want to do it. I'm like, I would much rather watch the show I've been watching. Or I would much rather go on a walk by myself. Or I'd much rather do these other things than play with my son. And I hate myself for it because I never thought I would be this way where I didn't want to hang out and play with my son. And if Aslan or maybe even Jesus came up to me, they'd be like saying that it is important to not only understand but appreciate the imagination, the mind, and the heart of these little kids like my son. But for some reason, my life has taken over, my responsibilities and my priorities have taken over that stuff. And so they, in a very real way, are more important to me than that. And I'm not saying I never play with my son, but yeah, I'm tired or I had a bad day at work or whatever it may be. What do you do to overcome that?
Me? Jeez. Yeah, because when you're not here's the thing. When you're not sleeping and you have a job and you feel pushed, and I felt this especially when I became interim lead pastor. Gosh, just so much to do. There's always a reason to be checking emails. I think it sounds selfish, but I also saw like the benefit for me of, instead of anxiety or stress, what if I threw myself into interaction with my family? Like, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to pretend like, yeah, I'll go begrudgingly play with you, I actually threw myself in and went, no, I'm going to imagine with him and do this with all my emotion and all my passion. And just, he wants to play lightsabers, I'm going to go into it. And I'm not going to act like I'm too cool for it. I'm going to dive in and actually be like, oh, yeah, and come up with stories and actually pretend like, no, I feel the same way as him, and get into character and think like, yeah, like, no, like, actually imagine, like, well, if we did see robots and we're fighting them, and it was throwing myself into it. So not like withdrawing and be like, all right, how do I begrudgingly barely do this? It was actually like make myself, no, throw myself into it. Don't be too cool. And I'd find us running around with lightsabers, and I had fun. And I think the human interaction, too, I was able to just, be childlike in a way. Because I don't think we get that. In a way, we're healed, too, when we do that. But...
yeah, that's a great point. I just think this is relevant. It's still in Matthew 18, Jesus says in verse 4, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And I kind of feel like that's what you were saying, like, I'm not too cool or busy or too adult to throw myself into this. Yeah. It just, because here's the thing, I'm always tired, man. I cannot, it's even hard training, like kickboxing. I'm always tired. But I think about, like, when I was a kid, what would I have given for my dad to play with me? And I'm like, all right, and I'll throw myself in. And sometimes it doesn't go well. But a lot of the time, too, I don't know, Maverick and I just have a really just different relationship than Riker and my wife, Jess. It's just Maverick, I mean, him and I have been through suffering together. But, yeah, I was just throwing myself into it. A lot of it was saying, oh, yeah, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to try to, though. I'm going to throw myself into it and, do this. And part of that can be contributed to spirit, I would say. Maybe, God was working, maybe prayer. But it just, I can't lie and say it's not part of my personality, too. I'm a 0 or 100 person. So if I'm not disengaged and I do something, I'm 100%. I'm all in. Like this podcast. It's like, let's have guests. Let's do this. I'm already thinking like that. So if I'm not disengaged, if I decide to throw myself into something, I don't know. I try to see value. I try to see that's healing me, too. It's the way I lose my anxiety. It's the way I feel human. It's the way I feel connection. And just if he's got to remember this. And also it's like, is he really asking that much? Like, think of it. He's coming up. He's begging to hang out with me. That's all he wants. Mm-hmm. He wants to hang out with his dad. That's not too much to ask. And I don't know. I want him to love better than me. I don't want to put pressure on him. And I don't say a lot of this to him. But I want him to be better. And not even like tougher or stronger. I want him to just love well. I want him to be faithful. I don't want him to feel like he has to prove anything to anyone. Just really where you go, man, he's just humble and a man of God. So, I don't know, I see it as an investment too. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I have a perfect answer for how I do that. It's just, but I'm tired. I am tired a lot. Yeah, that's the thing is, you're more tired than me. How old is Riker now? So,
Riker is 9 months.
Yeah, so you're definitely way more tired than me.
He's teething. It's just, I don't know. I think though, if you had a second kid, you'd see it. God gives it. He gives you the love that you need. Like when we had Maverick, I thought, well, I already love my wife. I don't know what much more love I have, and I found I had this whole other like department of love. And I feel like that with Riker. There's a whole nother storehouse of love I didn't even know I had. I think our capacity for love is greater than we think. It's just it takes certain things to bring it out. And I don't perfectly feel the way about Riker that I do Maverick, but I love him. And it's different, though. Riker just has different attributes, but I don't know. I wonder how much love we're capable of. And if that's true, and we see how much we're missing, I wonder what New Heaven, New Earth will look like if that's all unlocked.
Right.
If you think, all right, for all you nerds, say you're at level 1 and you unlock level 2. Imagine being unlocked at like the greatest level. I think we have such a higher capacity for love, but we're so fearful and have so much sin and so much worry. I don't know. Sponsored by Buys Pies. If you need a pie, you call Buys. Coming out December 24th.
Don't be a fake and eat cake.
Don't be a fake.
Always go pie.
Always go. I don't know why, dude. I've never been big on pie.
Cake.
I mean cake.
Whoa.
I've never been big on cake. Yeah.
Whoa.
I know. The podcast is over.
Slip.
I've never. All right. Here, can I describe how? All right. So pie to me is awesome. Cake to me is this sponge, and they put some sugar on top.
Yeah, it's not. Cake is not good.
Here's the thing. There's only one. Here's the funny thing. There's only one cake I'll tolerate, and that's cheesecake. And you know what I do with it? I put cherry pie on top of it. I put cherries on top of it. And even that, if I had a choice between cheesecake and pie, I would still choose pie. No joke. Any day of the week. Pie. I don't understand how people who don't support Stalin and Hitler no, I'm not going to say it.
I think that's a good point. If you like cake better than pie, you may be
Apostate.
a white supremacist.
You might really hate this country. And you know what? You can get mad at me all you want, but it's in Wikipedia. So, why do you have a Preeyer of Jeboz book?
That is a book that I keep to remind myself that you can be enlightened and improve your status in America if you go to the Preeyer of Jeboz conference hosted in Jamaica. Free lobster every night.
Is it in Jamaica?
I heard about one that was like in some island. Yeah.
I thought James gave that to you maybe because that's his favorite book.
Preeyer of Jeboz.
Who's it written by Bonson?
Preeyer of Jeboz is a entire book written about a short section of Chronicles, I think.
About how white people don't have to suffer.
About, yes, basically how
if you say,
everybody deserves prosperity. Yeah, it's there. Just so that
more
it's
like
my library.
Well, I mean, I've been seeing it. I'm like, I was trying to remember. I was like, where do I know that book from? I said, oh, it's the one I didn't like. But
I can't believe you can read the title from there.
Preeyer of Jeboz by Wilkinson.
The first thing I ever knew about you was how good your vision is.
Weird. I found out that a few years ago, yet some people knew it 12 years ago, almost like they were exaggerating the story.
First thing I ever knew.
In God's hands.
All right. Well, I think that is enough.
You uncircumcised Philistines.
That concludes December Tales from the Ditch. Please check back in the future.
Yeah, Tales from the Ditch with Pastor Seth and Deacon Sean as your spiritual authority on things. So, how do we end this? Do I just...
You just say, say the email address.
talesfromditch@gmail.com to tell Sean or Seth, I guess, so I don't get enough criticism. Suggestions, questions. If it's something I don't like, I'll delete it or block you. Mm-hmm. You know who you are. Check back often. I have a side project called Fixing My Heater, and you'll never hear details about it because I don't know you people anything. Except Carson Church. Hey, love you guys. So, yeah, I think that's right.
All right, we'll call that good.
Mm-hmm. Bye.